The day I died, the man I loved most married his beloved. I sat in the guestchi, applauding with a smile and tears in my eyes. I spent 25 years of my youth understanding a truth. Turns out, childhood sweethearts really can't compare to love at first sight. But luckily I'm about to die. All the past is now just that, the past. The story of Audrey and Julian ends here. At Julian's wedding, I drank a few too many glasses of wine. When he and Sylvia came over to toast, I stood up groggily, raising my glass. Julian, congratulations. I wish you a lifetime of happiness and many children. Julian frowned at me, but ultimately said nothing, tilting his head back and drinking the wine. Sylvia smiled at me. Thank you, Audrey. She smiled gently, stroking her slightly protruding abdomen. When the baby is born, we'll have you as the godmother. Julian looked at her abdomen, his eyes finally showing a smile. He said, Audrey, you must come to the baby's 1-month celebration. I looked at her with a smile, raised my glass, and drank it all. It's just a pity that I won't be able to wait until the baby is born. After toasting this table, Julian took Sylvia's hand, and they left together, closely intertwined. I put down my glass, looking at their affectionate figures, somewhat lost in thought. How well matched they are. A talented man and a beautiful woman. A match made in heaven. And me, my appearance can barely be considered pretty, and my personality is dull and boring. No wonder Julian doesn't want me. A person as proud and noble as him should naturally be paired with someone as aloof and refined as Sylvia. The people at the table were all elders of the Lee family, who had watched Julian and me grow up since we were little. They looked at me with pity. Audrey, you and Julian are not meant to be. Forget about what happened when you were young. I didn't say anything, supporting my dizzy head to get up. Waves of nausea churned in my stomach, accompanied by a familiar sharp pain. I endured the pain and walked towards the bathroom. Behind me, someone sighed softly. Fate plays tricks on people. Back then, everyone thought Julian would marry Audrey. Yes, their relationship was so good back then. Yes, everyone thought I would be Julian's wife. Who would have thought that years later, I would be sitting in the guest seat, drinking celebratory wine, watching with my own eyes as he married another woman. I never even dreamed of such a thing. Outside the window, the white snow fell, rustling down. I turned my head, looking at the tall and upright figure of the man in the distance. Suddenly, I remembered many years ago, that snowy night. Audrey, I like you. As the years go by, I hope we can grow old together, inseparable in our old age. Audrey, will you marry me? Ido. But the boy who wanted to marry me back then has been lost in the years, and will never return. Julian and I were childhood sweethearts. Ever since I had memories, I had been like a little tail, following him around all day, calling him Julian Gidge. He was born with a cold personality, and didn't like to pay attention to anyone. But I was thick-skinned. The more he ignored me, the more I liked to cling to him. Julian, wait for me. Julian, will you play on the rocking horse with me, please? Julian, someone is bullying me, can you help me? I was clumsy and slow since I was little, slow at everything I did. Even though Julian disliked me, he always followed behind me, cleaning up my messes. Of course, he would also punish me. If I accidentally broke his paintbrush, he would get angry and draw a mustache on my face. If I accidentally left dirty handprints on his newly bought shirt, he would deliberately frame the shirt and hang it in the most conspicuous place, silently mocking me. When I threw a tantrum and refused to eat, he would threaten me, saying he would never talk to me again. He was so mean. He knew that I was most afraid of him ignoring me. Someone jokingly asked him if he would marry me when he grew up. At that time I was young, munching on an apple, and laughing happily. Okay. When I grow up, I'll marry Julian and be his bride. His face flushed, he pulled over a tissue and covered my face. Wipe your face, it's so dirty. The Zhou and Li families were old friends, lived close by, and had a very good relationship. When I was little, I often sneaked over to the Li family to play, and I would play all day long. All day long, I would only cling to Julian. He was 3 years older than me, and he had a calmness and maturity beyond his age. At that time, I thought that having a corner by his side meant that I could have him for a lifetime. But years passed by slowly. Neither of us thought that childhood sweethearts couldn't compare to a sudden arrival. I was hunched over the toilet, throwing up until I was dizzy. Someone knocked on the door outside. Do you need help? I hurriedly pressed the flush button and wiped the corners of my mouth. The glaring red on the back of my hand, I didn't have time to wipe it clean, so I had to hide my hand behind my back. I opened the door, and Julian's mother was standing outside. She was very surprised to see me. Audrey? I awkwardly called out Auntie, and left in a disheveled state. Audrey. Julian's mother quickly caught up, her eyes a little red. She looked at me, hesitant to speak. After a long while she whispered, I'm sorry. My throat was dry, and my voice was hoarse. Auntie, you don't need to apologize. What happened back then was my own choice. Nothing else mattered. Auntie looked at me with heartache, tears glistening in her eyes. Audrey, you and Julian aren't meant to be, forget about him. Everyone said that Julian and I weren't meant to be. Even I thought so myself. But why? Back then, our love was so fervent, so earth-shattering. Why could the appearance of a Sylvia erase the feelings we had for over a decade? I covered my chest, suppressed the heart-wrenching dull pain, and gave a pale smile. Auntie, I let go a long time ago. When I left the hotel, I saw Julian and Sylvia standing at the entrance, seeing guests off. I didn't go over, I just looked at Julian from afar. Someone said goodbye to him. Congratulations, Julian, you finally married the girl you love. He rarely smiled, but at this moment, there was a hint of a smile in his eyes and eyebrows. Thank you. I looked at him, as if time and space were vast, and time stood still. Time seemed to return to many years ago, to that hot summer. He held my hand and gave me a rose under the starry sky as a betrothal gift. Audrey, why haven't you grown up? I really want to marry you home as soon as possible, my silly girl. Once upon a time, there was a boy who loved me so devoutly. In the most beautiful years of our lives, we made a promise for life. And on a snowy night covered in white, we gave each other a devout first kiss. Finally, in the spring when pear blossoms filled the branches, we pledged our lives to each other. Time passed slowly. In the end, the boy I loved married someone else. Back home, I couldn't hold on any longer and vomited a mouthful of blood. Numbly, I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, poured a glass of warm water, and swallowed the medicine. Stomach cancer and depression are devouring my life. I know I'm going to die soon. But I don't want to die looking too unsightly. Even if I die, I want to die with some dignity. I packed my things overnight and drove to the outskirts of the city. The old Joe family mansion is here. This place holds the most beautiful youthful memories of Julian and me. The mansion is old and covered in a thick layer of dust. The bluestone slabs in the courtyard are covered with pure white snow. It's just like the night Julian first kissed me when we were young. The story of Julian and me began here. And it should end here too. I wonder if he will come to take a look when he hears the news of my death. Will he remember those years? He once made a promise of one love for life under the locust tree in the old mansion to a girl. I put on beautiful makeup, put on my favorite white long dress, and walked barefoot on the snow in the cold winter month. I'm here to say goodbye. But in the end, I couldn't help but wander around the mansion. Rusty door locks, small windows decayed by the wind, chipped red walls and faded mud dolls. A male and female mud doll, quietly placed on the windowsill of the east wing. That was the birthday present I painstakingly made for Julian when I was 15, meticulously coloring it with each stroke. After the breakup, Julian returned the mud dolls to me. I couldn't bear to throw them away, but I didn't want to be reminded of him, so I put the mud dolls in the old mansion. That was the purest emotion of my youth. Now they, along with their owner, are abandoned. It turns out that things that are not cherished, like people, are so cheap. An icy chill came from my toes, rushing straight to my heart. I clutched my heart and couldn't hold on any longer, vomiting a large mouthful of blood. The blood stained the pure white snow red. Just like my relationship with Julian. The clean and pure first love in my memory was already muddy and unbearable. Before I died, I desperately crawled to the locust tree in the courtyard. On the trunk, in childish handwriting, were engraved two names. Audrey, Julian. I stroked the aged writing on the trunk and chuckled foolishly. People are always walking back in time. Julian has long moved forward. Only I stubbornly remained in place. Relentlessly guarding that broken memory. For the rest of my life. I leaned against the tree, and in a daze, I seemed to hear my father's voice. Julian, you're here to play with Audrey again? Tutoring her homework. Young me, wearing the white dress he loved most, ran down from the attic, cheering and jumping. Brother Julian. The girl was so pretty, with a rosy face and eyes that curved when she smiled. She stood in front of the boy, looking up and smiling sweetly. Her eyes, adorned with starlight, held only him. The wind howled, snowflakes fell rustling, dampening the corners of my eyes. Years flowed by, and the old house seemed to return to its former tranquility. My mother sat in the living room knitting, looking at Julian with a smile. Julian, how about marrying Audrey as your wife in the future? I took a bite of the apple, the juice sweet to my heart, and smiled with my eyes curving. Okay. When I grow up, I'll marry Brother Julian and be his bride. The boy blushed and covered my face with a tissue, thinking that this way, he could hide his shy gaze. The clock ticked, and 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Under the moonlight, the boy had grown into a handsome young man. I secretly climbed over the wall, knocked on his window, and dragged him under the pagoda tree. On the 100-year-old tree, childish handwriting carved our names. The moonlight that night was so beautiful, and the wind was gentle. I mustered my courage and looked at him. Brother Julian, will you be my boyfriend? He was silent for a long time, as if frozen by the night, without saying a word. My eyes turned red, feeling aggrieved and sad. You don't want to? If you don't want to, then pretend I didn't say anything. He came back to his senses, sighed, and pulled me into his arms. Silly Audrey, confessing is supposed to be a boy's thing. I leaned in his arms, listening to his fiercely beating heart, feeling so happy I could almost fly. Later, he cupped my face and kissed me reverently. Audrey, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? In this lifetime, I only want you. But the promise made in youth was too light, and Julian's lifetime lasted only 3 short years. I never thought that Julian would not want me. He clearly loved me so much. I was born with cold hands and feet. In winter, he would use his warm hands to wrap my small hands, and put them on his chest to warm them. At night, he would check the floor heating in my room and thoughtfully prepare a hot water bottle for me. When I was 15, I argued with him and ran away in anger. He was proud and unwilling to chase me. That night, I encountered hooligans on the street corner, and almost got into trouble. It was him who rushed over and defeated the fierce-looking drunk with his immature fists. That was the first time I saw fear and panic in his eyes. He held me tightly, his wounded mouth close to my ear, calling my name over and over. Audrey, I'm sorry, it's my fault. There won't be a next time. From now on, I won't let anyone hurt you. He kept his word and didn't let anyone hurt me. Later, he personally picked up the knife and stabbed it fiercely into my heart. Using the calmest tone, he said the most cruel words. He said, Audrey, I don't love you anymore. But Julian, do you know? Rather than not being loved, I would rather you not want me. I died, but my soul lingered in the courtyard. My corpse leaned quietly against the tree. My delicate, pale face, the tear at the corner of my eye, frozen into an icy bead. What was I thinking about in the last moment before I died? It seems like it was the year I first entered college. That day happened to be the eve of my 19th birthday. Julian had specially kept it from me, taking leave from work a day early to celebrate my birthday at school. When I saw him at the school gate, he was wearing a white sweater and black casual pants, his hair falling messily over his forehead. Those clear, aloof eyes would curve slightly when he saw me, tinged with a hint of a smile. I screamed and rushed over, jumping on him, hugging his face and kissing him. Julian Gidge, why are you here? His handsome face flushed slightly as he hugged me and walked towards a deserted corner. There are so many people, you shameless thing. What are you afraid of? You're my boyfriend. I hugged him tightly, as if I was holding the whole world. At that time, I naively thought that I was the happiest person in the world. That day, we walked through the streets and alleys of the city, watching the lights of thousands of homes. We shared a tender and lingering kiss as fireworks bloomed. In the evening, I sneaked into his quilt, my face red. I knew what he wanted, but he was always afraid of hurting me, always restraining himself. That night, Julian kissed me almost reverently, again and again, like a deadly poison. Audrey, I will take responsibility for you. Next year, when you turn 20, we'll get married. That night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The boy's face was near and far before my eyes. The night was gentle, and the boy's eyes were like they held the night sky of midsummer. Starlight scattered, and inside was all me. Black and white impermanence came to collect my soul, and were very angry when they saw my corpse. Why did you commit suicide? Your life wasn't meant to end. Suicide is against the will of heaven. I looked at them helplessly. I have stomach cancer and depression. Death is just a matter of time. Black impermanence said, you have a destined marriage, you can't die yet. But I didn't want to live anymore. I said, even if you don't let me die, I'll still find a way to die. White impermanence glared at me. I'll give you a chance to return to your body for an hour, to do what you want to do, to see if you can find a little hope of living. I agreed. The first thing I did when I returned to my body was take out my phone and dial Julian's number. The phone took a long time to connect. Audrey, what's wrong? Hearing his voice, I was lost for a moment. Even after the breakup, he still habitually called me Audrey, never changing it. It was as if there had never been a separation between us. And I was still the girl he cherished in his palm, forever only belonging to him. Julian Gitch. I looked up at the goosefeather snow above my head, and in a daze, it was like I had returned to a snowy night 10 years ago. The other end of the phone was silent for a long time. I knew he probably hadn't reacted. After all, I had never called him that since the breakup. Julian Gitch. I called him softly again. If. Husband. Sylvia's questioning voice came from the phone. It's so late, who are you talking to? I heard the sound of a lighter. It must be Julian lighting a cigarette. It's nothing, he said. Just an ordinary friend. Ordinary friends. So in his heart, I'm just an ordinary friend now. I gave a self-deprecating laugh and hung up the phone. The snow had stopped. The moon peeked out from behind the clouds, gentle and beautiful. I looked at the moon, tilting my head back, trying not to let the tears fall. Julian Gidge, I whispered, finally saying the words I couldn't bring myself to say before. If I died, would you be sad? I knew I wouldn't get an answer anymore. He probably wouldn't be too sad, right? After all, I was just a passerby in his life, one he could easily do without. Insignificant. I died again. My soul floated in the air, and the black and white impermanents looked at me, blowing their beards and glaring. Don't you really have any desire to live? I nodded. When I was little, my parents were loving, my family was happy, and everyone doted on me. Back then, I had parents who loved me, Julian whom I loved, and a wonderful life that everyone envied. Later, Julian didn't want me anymore. And then a fire broke out in my house, and my parents were gone too. Now the man I love most is getting married. I'm alone with no ties, and I should have left long ago. Black Impermanence sighed. What a pity, you were destined for a good marriage. How could you be ill-fated? Did the book of destiny get it wrong? White Impermanence blew his beard. She wants to die herself. What are you trying to stop it for? Then he said, your life isn't over, the underworld won't take you. From now on, you can only be a wandering ghost. Are you willing? I thought for a moment and nodded. I am willing. Being a wandering ghost is also good. I can wander around and go wherever I want. I became a wandering ghost, drifting in the yard, boredly sitting on the locust tree swinging my legs. The phone rang again. It was Julian calling. But sorry, Julian Gitch. Audrey can't answer your calls anymore. I'm a ghost now. When I was little, I asked you if I would turn into a star if I died. At that time, you looked at me with a serious face and said, when people die, it's like a lamp going out. Once you're dead, there's nothing left. You were wrong. I can still become a wandering ghost when I die. The phone kept ringing, the quiet night, so noisy my ghostly ears couldn't stand it. I suddenly wanted to play a prank on Julian, like I used to do when I was little. I wonder if he'll be scared to tears when he sees my ghost face in his dream. I left the old house and floated to Julian's house. Tonight is his wedding night, so it should be very festive. But his new room was particularly deserted. Julian was standing by the living room window, cigarette butt scattered on the floor. The smoke blurred his stern features. I floated in front of him, opened my mouth, pulled my eyes open with both hands, and tried my best to make a scary face. Pooh. Scare you to death. Julian has a secret that only I know. He's not afraid of anything except ghosts. When I was little, I used this secret to threaten him, forbidding him from getting close to other girls. Julian seemed to sense something and looked up at me. The night wind blew in from the window, messing up the hair on his forehead. His eyes were like a pool of stagnant water, sad and tranquil. I made a face at him again, trying to scare him like I used to when we were kids. But he couldn't see me. He thought it was the wind, lowered his head again, and continued making phone calls. I felt utterly bored. Forget it, I'll wait until he falls asleep and then scare him in his dreams. Julian tirelessly dialed my number over and over again. Finally, he irritably stubbed out his cigarette, grabbed his coat, and turned to leave. Sylvia, wearing pajamas, came out of the room. Julian, where are you going? He paused before saying, to find a friend. A friend. Sylvia frowned. Is it Audrey? Julian didn't say anything, his thin lips were tight, and he walked forward with a cold face. You said you wouldn't bother her anymore. Sylvia's eyes were red, and her face was pale. Julian didn't say anything and kept walking. Julian, don't go. Sylvia clutched her lower abdomen, suddenly looking pale. My stomach hurt so much, the baby. Julian's face changed drastically. He hesitated for 2 seconds, but ultimately turned back, choosing Sylvia. Just like back then. My freshman year, I secretly ran to his school, wanting to give him a surprise. The night before leaving, I hid under the covers and secretly called him. He sounded unenthusiastic. I didn't think much of it, imagining the joyful look on his face when he saw me. I had a secret, waiting to give him a surprise when I saw him. The next day, I took a 2-hour high-speed rail trip to see him. Downstairs in the teaching building, in the sea of people, I saw Julian holding a girl's hand. He had a smile on his face, the kind of gentle tenderness I had never seen before. After saying something, the girl nestled in his arms with a coy laugh. I stood in the crowd, like a pitiful clown, watching them perform a sweet love story. Julian wasn't flustered when he saw me. Instead, he held Sylvia's hand tightly, not letting go. I stood there, like a child abandoned by the whole world, at a loss. I was clearly the victim. But to anyone else, I looked like an insignificant outsider. What are you doing here? The boy I loved most used the lips I had kissed countless times to utter this most cruel question. I stood awkwardly looking at him anxiously. Julian Gidge, who is she? Sylvia, he said. My girlfriend, he added. At that time, I was terrified and helpless. She's your girlfriend, then what am I? You're just my sister. Sister? I had known him for over a decade, and we had been in love for 3 years. I gave him everything I had, everything I treasured. In the end, he only thought of me as his sister? I'm sorry, Audrey, I don't have romantic feelings for you. After meeting Sylvia, I understood what true love is. To kill with words is exactly like this. But I've always been well behaved, and when tears rolled down my face, I even cried and apologized. I'm sorry. Brother Julian, I know it's my fault. I shouldn't have bothered you. I'm going back to school, don't worry, in the future I won't bother you anymore. I didn't dare to look at his expression. Even less dared to look at Sylvia's face. I kept all the embarrassment and awkwardness to myself. After all, since I was little, I've always been the one clinging to him. Even getting together was my initiative. He's the person I've loved since I was little. Even if he hurt me deeply, I still can't bring myself to hate him. Later, I couldn't help myself and would always sneak off to see him. He and Sylvia were strolling on campus. They sat on a bench, listening to music quietly together. He and Sylvia walked side by side in the corridor, quiet and tacit. I wrote everything I saw each time in my diary. Finally, I deceived myself by crossing out Sylvia's name and changing it to Audrey. Later, when I was secretly watching him, he caught me red-handed. I cried and hugged him, begging him, could he give me one more chance? But he looked at me coldly, his eyes no longer held the doting he once had. Audrey, be good. I'm sorry for what happened in the past. But Sylvia, she can't live without me. I didn't understand, why couldn't Sylvia live without him? She's such a big girl. Would she die without him? I knew Sylvia was pitiful. She was an orphan, raised in an orphanage since she was little. It said that when Julian first met her, She was working part-time at a club. A brilliant student, in order to earn tuition and living expenses, had to work as a waitress at a club, earning high hourly wages. That night, a customer targeted Sylvia, trying to take advantage of her. Julian happened to pass by and rescued her. Their bond was born from that. I asked his classmates about it. It said that from the time they met to the time they confirmed their relationship, it took less than a month. During that time, Julian would pick Sylvia up from work every day. He even used his own living expenses to subsidize her. In the morning, he would go to her dormitory and wait for her to go to class together. After class, the two would go to eat together. At night, he would send Sylvia back to her dormitory, and the two would stand downstairs, chatting intimately. Everyone praised them as a perfect match, destined to be together. Only I fled the scene in a disheveled state. So he had fallen in love with Sylvia at first sight. So just 1 month could erase the more than 10 years of affection between me and him. So I wasn't as important in his heart as I thought. I was the one who took myself too seriously. I originally wanted to pester him again. But Julian's words directly plunged me into an abyss. He said, "Audrey, I don't love you anymore." Actually, there were already signs that Julian had fallen in love with Sylvia. It was just that I didn't want to admit it. At that time, when we talked on the phone every night, he would often mention Sylvia's name. I recently met a friend. She has a very proud personality, very stubborn. She's completely different from you. You're like a well-behaved doll, obedient and sensible, while she's just a thorny character. But she's quite pitiful, an orphan who has to earn her own tuition. At the time, I didn't realize anything was wrong and even advised him to help this friend more. Julian really doted on me back then. He actually listened to me and often went to help Sylvia. As he helped, the two of them got together. At first, I didn't notice anything amiss. Until one time, I called Julian and a woman answered the phone. I didn't panic at all, and obediently told her that I was looking for Julian Gidge, brother. Julian, the woman on the phone said smugly. He drank too much to help me block alcohol, and he's throwing up in the toilet right now. Call back later, goodbye. After the phone hung up, I was stunned for a long time before belatedly realizing what that sentence meant. Julian, who had always kept his distance from women, was actually willing to block alcohol for her. At that moment I panicked. But I was still too young, and because of a single I trust him, I really didn't question him about it. Later, things reached the point of no return. I don't want to recall what happened afterward. I don't want too many dirty memories to bury the happiness he once brought me. During that time, I lived a life worse than death. The pain of heartbreak, coupled with the physical pain of my illness, brought me double torment, leaving me emaciated. The doctor diagnosed me with mild depression back then. I didn't dare tell my family, afraid they would overthink. At that time, the motivation that kept me alive was getting into Julian's school for graduate studies. I attributed his change of heart to the fact that we were too far apart. He went to university in a distant city, while my grades were average, and I only got into a local, ordinary university. We could only meet during the winter and summer vacations each year. Long-distance couples do face more temptations than others. Later, unable to bear the longing, I had to go to his school to see him every week. That day, I begged him to get back together. And after he rejected me, Sylvia came to find me. She looked at me with pity, like a lofty goddess. "Audrey, what do you have to compete with me? If it weren't for the fact that you and Ayen grew up together, a girl as ordinary as you, he wouldn't even look at you. Don't be so sentimental. He doesn't have any romantic feelings for you at all. He loves me. Do you know how passionate he is with me?" She rubbed her waist, deliberately revealing the ambiguous red marks behind her ear. "You probably don't know we've already been living together off campus. He's already planned it out. We'll get married after I graduate from university. Next year, remember to come drink our wedding wine." Sylvia's words became the last straw that broke my life. That night, I hid in the dormitory bathroom, holding a knife, and slashed hard at my wrist. Vera found me. She was my best friend in high school, and went to be university with me. She knew about everything between me and Julian. After I woke up, Vera lay on top of me, crying like a child. "Audrey, how could you be so stupid? Julian is just a heartless scumbag. You should have let him go a long time ago. I'm going to find him and make him kneel down and apologize to you. I stared blankly at the ceiling, my voice hoarse. Vera, don't tell him. He doesn't want me anymore. Even if I want to die, it has nothing to do with him. A breakup should be decent. Vera hugged me crying, her tears all flowing into my neck. Audrey, you're stupid. You should have told Julian back then. If he knew about that, he would have. Vera. I looked at her with a serious expression for the first time. That thing for the rest of your life, you are not allowed to mention it. The first year after Julian graduated, my parents' new home in the city caught fire in the middle of the night. A fire took my parents' lives. I became an orphan with no father or mother. My grandparents were old, and I was afraid they couldn't handle it, so I hid the truth. After the funeral arrangements for my parents, I seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. Julian was busy starting his own business at that time, and he was overwhelmed every day. But he still took the time to pay his respects. At that time he was dressed in a suit and leather shoes, and the youthfulness of his youth had faded away, making him look much more mature. Surprisingly, Sylvia didn't come that day. Julian looked at me, as if he had a lot to say. Finally he hugged me tightly. Like the night he first possessed me, with a force so great that he almost wanted to melt me into his bones and blood. Audrey, I'm sorry. After he said this, he turned and left. Until now, I don't understand the meaning of his apology. Was it because he let me down? But he had apologized to me long ago. At that time, I was exhausted and too lazy to think about it. The next day, Sylvia found me. She looked haggard with swollen eyes. The first thing she said was, Audrey, I'm pregnant. I have already forgotten how I felt at that time. I only remember forcing myself to smile and saying, Congratulations. She looked at me pleadingly. Audrey, why don't you leave here? Do you know that because of you, Julian wants to break up with me? I looked at her blankly. Does it have anything to do with me? Of course it has something to do with you. Sylvia, who had always been proud in front of me, showed a resentful expression for the first time. You and he grew up together, and although he doesn't love you, he always cares about you. Now that your parents have both died, he actually wants to break up with me and take care of you out of responsibility. Do you know that I'm already pregnant, and we love each other so much, but we have to break up because of you. And the child will have no father because of you. Are you willing to do that? Child. I looked at her and couldn't help but raise my hand to stroke my lower abdomen. A small life had once been conceived here as well. When Julian loved me the most, it quietly arrived. When I was overjoyed and wanted to tell him the good news, he held Sylvia's hand and stood in front of me, telling me that he had a new lover. If the dead embryo had a soul, it would definitely be sad and cry, right? I had been caught in the rain, so I didn't want Sylvia to get wet either. I understand. I told her. I will do as you wish. That night, Julian came to me drunk. He kissed me, saying sorry again and again. He said, Audrey, I was wrong. Give me a chance, let's start over. I pushed him away and looked at him calmly. I'm sorry, Julian, I have a new lover. He froze in place, the emotions in his eyes congealing little by little. I smiled at him, smoothing the wrinkles between his eyebrows as I did when we were in love. No one will wait for you in the same place, Julian. I don't love you anymore. He likes me very much, like you used to spoil me, cherish me. He is very certain that I am his lover. He won't mistake a momentary infatuation for love for me. I took out the photo and handed it to him. Look, aren't we a good match, him and I? He stared at the photo, silent for a long time, but his expression was particularly painful. His usually aloof eyes were filled with suppressed sadness and regret. What was he sad about? What was he regretting? Clearly, he was the one who didn't want me first, wasn't he? Clearly, we could have had an enviable love, childhood sweethearts, innocent playmates. But he, for a girl he had only known for a month, threw away the me who loved him the most. I stayed in Julian's new house all night, but I still didn't enter his dream. Because he went out after Sylvia fell asleep. I didn't follow him, just stood by the window, watching the city's lights go out one by one. Just like my life. The lamp runs out of oil. Until dawn, Julian came back. He was covered in a layer of snow, and his eyes were full of fatigue, looking much older than I remembered. It seemed he couldn't find me. It snowed all night. My body should have been buried in the snow, right? The old house is so remote, Julian rarely goes back. By the time my body is discovered, it will probably be spring. By then, my body will probably have rotted beyond recognition. I suddenly regretted dying there. If I had known, I should have died at my own house. At least that way, when Julian found me, I would still be the most beautiful image in his memory. Julian returned home and charged his phone. The first thing he did was call me. This time, the phone went straight to voicemail. I pouted. Apple phones are really garbage. They shut down in the cold. Julian became more and more irritable, hesitated for a long time, and finally dialed a phone number. I was surprised to see the name. It was Marcus, my boyfriend who cooperated with me in the play. Hello, who is this? Where's Audrey? Julian asked anxiously. Dude, how would I know? Aren't you her fiancé? Please, I have a wife. Who are you? Audrey and I are just ordinary classmates. Please don't spread rumors, okay? Julian was stunned, murmuring. Then what about the photo of you two together? Marcus thought for a while and said, Oh, that photo. 3 years ago, she came to me and asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend and take a photo. She said that she had a scumbag ex-boyfriend whose girlfriend was pregnant, but he still wanted to get back with her, so she wanted me to act with her and take a photo. That's all there is to it. She and I are completely innocent. Please don't spread rumors about me. My wife will get jealous. Julian hung up the phone in embarrassment, his whole body slumped. He grabbed his hair in pain, and as if remembering some bad memory, punched the wall in anger. Julian. Sylvia stood at the bedroom door, looking at him with a pale face. Julian looked up, his eyes bloodshot. Sylvia, you're shameless. You better pray Audrey is all right. I'll settle this with you later. He stormed out, leaving Sylvia, whose legs gave way, collapsing to the ground. I don't understand. What's wrong with Julian? Doesn't he love Sylvia? Didn't he leave me for her? Why now, for my sake, is he blaming Sylvia? I floated behind Julian, following him into the car. The morning news was broadcasting current affairs. At 6:30 this morning, a young woman's body was discovered in an old house in the Yanqing suburbs of our city. The body is well preserved. Forensic examination of the scene indicates preliminary suspicion of homicide. I sat in the passenger seat, propping my chin up, enjoying the warm air conditioning, my soul rippling in the breeze. So my body was discovered so quickly. Those snow sweepers have sharp eyes. Good, at least they left me a pretty corpse. I looked at Julian. His face was pale, staring blankly ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel, trembling violently. After a long while, he fumbled to turn off the car news. I looked at him dissatisfied. Why did you turn it off? I wanted to know more details. He was breathing rapidly, his lips trembling violently, his eyes gradually filling with bloodshot redness. Impossible. He murmured softly, his fingers shaking terribly. It can't be Audrey. She's so afraid of pain, so afraid of the cold, it's impossible. Silly. I'm not afraid of the cold at all. And I'm even less afraid of pain. When I told you I was afraid of the cold, I wanted you to hold me tight. When I said I was afraid of pain, I wanted you to spoil me more. Never mind, even if I told him, he wouldn't understand. Julian was going crazy. In the dead of winter, the ground was icy, wet and slippery. But he was speeding like crazy, reaching 120 kilometers per hour, rushing out of the city, driving recklessly towards the Yanqing suburbs. Even as a ghost, I was scared by his speed, afraid of dying again. When his car stopped at the Oldley family house, the entrance was already surrounded by onlookers. So pitiful, she looked so young. What a sin! How could she die here? Nobody has lived here for many years. She looks a bit familiar, like the daughter of the Zhou family who used to live here, right? It's her. She's the young girlfriend of the Li family's son, right? Ah, I remember now. They grew up as childhood sweethearts, secretly dating later. I once saw them kissing at the corner of the wall in the courtyard, and the girl ran away shyly. But didn't the Li family's son get married yesterday? Isn't she the bride? Julian staggered out of the car, as if he didn't hear these voices, stumbling through the crowd. I followed behind him, into the courtyard. The police had set up a cordon around my body. I saw myself quietly leaning against the tree, my face pure white, like a quiet porcelain doll. My hands were tightly clutching those clay figurines, with large patches of bloodstains on my lips, turned dark red. Quite tragic. Julian stood there in a daze, his eyes bloodshot, his lips trembling, a beast-like wailing sound coming from his throat. Then, ignoring the police's obstruction, he rushed over and hugged me tightly. Audrey, wake up. Don't sleep, Julian Gerga is here. Are you angry with Gerga, deliberately ignoring Gerga? I was wrong. His voice trembled, and large tears fell from his eyes. I'm afraid I'll never be so presumptuous as to do what I think is good for you again. Open your eyes and look at me, okay? I floated in front of him, and like when we were kids, I made a funny face at him. Boo. Did I scare you? But he didn't look up like he used to. He could no longer hear my voice. He could no longer see me. When my body was pushed into the morgue, Vera rushed over. She looked at my body, lay on top of me, and began to wail. Audrey, why were you so foolish? Didn't you promise me you'd forget him and live a good life? Didn't you say you would work hard to cure your depression and become the sunny girl you used to be? Liar. You're a liar. Julian rushed over excitedly and grabbed her wrist. What did you say? Audrey had depression. Vera pulled her hand away and slapped him hard. Scumbag. You don't deserve Audrey's love at all. Audrey was such a good girl. You ruined her. I was anxious and stomping my feet. Vera, you promised me you'd keep it a secret for me. But Vera couldn't hear my voice, and cried as she told the whole truth. She said that during my freshman year, I accidentally became pregnant. Originally, I was thinking of having the baby, and then continuing my studies. The time I secretly went to see Julian was to discuss it with him. Who knew? He told me that he had fallen in love with Sylvia. Even so, I couldn't bear to abort the child. Later, I was distracted, and when I went home on the weekend, my mother discovered my pregnancy because it was too obvious. The fact that I was pregnant couldn't be hidden, and Julian's parents found out too. My mother was very angry and cried as she asked me who the father was. My father stood beside her, head bowed, not saying a word. I bit my lip, refusing to speak. It's Julian, isn't it? At that time, Julian had already made his relationship with Sylvia public to his family. He had kept our relationship a secret from his family. But in the first month of confirming his relationship with Sylvia, he made it public to his family. My usually gentle mother cried with red eyes. Audrey, you're confused. Julian is a heartless scumbag. Why are you being so foolish? I didn't want to be foolish either. But it was my child. How cruel would it be to kill it with my own hands? The baby was already 6 months old, too late for an abortion, so they had to induce labor. Everyone advised me to get rid of the baby. Even Julian's mother cried and begged me to let go of Julian. She said that Julian had wronged me, and as long as I said so, she would give me any compensation I wanted. But I didn't want compensation. I just wanted Julian. Could she compensate me for that? In the end, I compromised and had the baby removed. The only condition was that they not tell Julian. When we first became intimate, Julian would come to see me every week. He was like an insatiable glutton, tormenting me all night long. Afterwards, he would stroke my flat stomach and quietly describe our future together. Audrey, do you like boys or girls? I like both. I turned over and looked at his sweaty face. What about you? A girl. Why? He held me close, gently kissing my forehead. Because a girl like you, so obedient and beautiful, I can hold her in my palm and cherish her. After speaking, he lowered his head and whispered something shameless in my ear. I laughed and threw myself into his arms, and after some playful tussling, another night of enchanting romance. The baby was a fully formed girl. When the doctor took her away, I secretly glanced at her. Her eyebrows and eyes resembled mine, her mouth and nose like his. I closed my eyes, letting tears stream down my face. Perhaps my fate with Julian really ends here. This child, she was once here, real. She should have been a beautiful little girl, with parents who loved her, a carefree life. But in the end, she lost everything. She didn't even have time to see this world. From then on, my depression grew worse and worse. But I only told Vera, begging her to keep it a secret. Vera cried and roared at Julian, venting years of resentment. During sophomore year, she put aside her pride and dignity to beg you to get back together, but you rejected her mercilessly. Later, Sylvia even found her, showing off how much you loved her, flaunting your cohabitation life. Audrey's condition was already improving, but after being provoked like that, she attempted suicide by cutting her wrists that very night. If I hadn't found her in time, she would have died long ago. Also, when her parents passed away, Sylvia suddenly came to her, saying she was pregnant with your child, begging her to stay away from you. You know, Audrey has always been an obedient child. She was used to compromising, preferring to suffer herself rather than see others hurt. After graduation, she numbed herself with work, and her stomach was already bad, but she still ran around on business and drank every day. Her stomach was ruined back then. She's only 25 and she got stomach cancer. Julian, you killed Audrey. You, step by step, pushed Audrey to her death with your own hands. Julian stood there, stunned, his eyes bloodshot, his throat trembling violently. After a long while he murmured, "Why didn't you tell me? Why?" The more he spoke, the more agitated he became, and finally, as if stimulated, he grabbed Vera's shoulders forcefully. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Why?" Vera looked at him mockingly. "Because she loves you. She loves you, so she doesn't want to make things difficult for you. She loves you, so she hopes you're happy. Because Sylvia told her that if she looked for you, you would take care of her out of responsibility. Audrey wanted your love, not your responsibility, Julian. Do you even understand?" Vera became more and more agitated. "I really feel it's not worth it for Audrey. Her falling in love with you is the most foolish decision of her life." Vera left, leaving Julian alone, standing in front of my corpse, crying bitterly. "Audrey, I was wrong. Please come back, okay? What is he repenting for? Doesn't he know that belated affection is cheaper than grass?" On the 7th day after my death, Julian held a funeral for me. As a widower, he divorced Sylvia. Before the divorce, Sylvia and he had a fierce argument. I realized then that everything I had seen back then was fake. He doesn't love Sylvia. Back then, he brought Sylvia to see me on purpose, acting a part for me to see. Sylvia provoked me because she fell in love with Julian and wanted to force me to leave. Later, my parents died unexpectedly. Julian wanted to break off his relationship with her, but Sylvia refused and even threatened to tell me the truth. He didn't give in. Sylvia got scared and came to me, lying that she was pregnant, and wanted me to leave him. That night he came to me drunk, actually to get back together. But I shut him down with the words that I had a new lover. He thought I really didn't love him anymore, that I was heartbroken by him and didn't like him anymore. During that time, he was dazed and confused, getting drunk all day long. And I, under Sylvia's provocation, showed off my love in my moments every day. He came to pick me up in the rain. The Valentine's Day in July is so beautiful. Even with busy schoolwork, don't forget to date. During that time, Julian spent all day holding his phone, looking through my moments. He was getting drunk all day long. He was getting thinner and thinner. But what he didn't know was that my moments were only visible to him. All the lies I weaved were fantasies of being with him. At that time, my depression became more and more serious, and I suffered from insomnia all night. When I couldn't sleep, I would think, if I hadn't broken up with him, we should be in a sweet romance now, right? He would hold my hand and stroll on campus. On rainy days, he would hold an umbrella to pick me up. On Valentine's Day, he would buy me a large bouquet of roses, take me to eat delicious food, and watch a movie together. All the beautiful things I imagined were related to him. It's just a pity that he didn't know. At that time, he thought I was in love. I thought he was planning to marry Sylvia. What a ridiculous story. So melodramatic that even I dislike it. But what surprised me the most was the baby in Sylvia's belly. Julian said the child was mine and his. How is that possible? How could Sylvia be pregnant with our child? When Sylvia and Julian were arguing, they kept saying a word. The truth. What exactly is the truth about Julian and I breaking up? I wanted to know, but I was also afraid to know. In the end, Sylvia threatened him with the child, but Julian himself sent her to the hospital. The child was taken out, and Sylvia went crazy. She was sent to a mental hospital, And Julian said he would never let her out in this lifetime. I looked at the mentally deranged Sylvia with a calm heart. A large part of the reason why Julian and I ended up like this today was because she was causing trouble behind the scenes. She deserves what she got today. Julian built a very beautiful tombstone for me, and next to it, he erected an empty tomb for our daughter. I'm quite satisfied. He knew I loved beauty, so he filled the tombstone with flowers. Looking from a distance, it looked like a field of white camellias blooming in the wilderness, which was particularly beautiful. I think it's time for me to say goodbye. Julian still has his path to walk. And I will also have a wonderful ghost life. I went to Julian to say my final farewell. It was still a snowy night, the coldest time of winter. He sat alone in the room, holding the clay doll I had given him in his hand. He sat hunched behind his desk, staring at the photo frame on the desk. Inside the frame was a photo of him and me. In the photo, I was still 15 or 16, shyly held in his arms. My face was flushed, like a pink rose just blooming at dawn. The photo frame was very old, with a lot of the paint chipped off the edges. One could imagine how much time he spent caressing this photo frame every day. So, all these years he had been in love with me. After he fell asleep, I entered his dream. In the dream, it was a bright and verdant school campus. I was wearing a white long dress, standing under the teaching building. In the surging crowd, Julian, in a white shirt, walked from the crowd, holding Sylvia's hand. I stood there dumbfounded, staring blankly at him. Why would he dream of this scene? From afar, Julian saw me and seemed to freeze. Then he let go of Sylvia's hand and ran towards me with all his might. He hugged me tightly, his heavy breathing echoing in my ear. I felt his intense sorrow and regret. Audrey. His chin rested on my shoulder, and he cried like a wounded child, his face smeared with tears and snot. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I won't lie to you anymore, let's be together, and when the baby is born next year, we can get married. Then, I will hold a grand wedding for you, and our family of 3 will never be separated again. I finally understood why he would dream of this day. So he was also regretting the choice he made on this day. This day was the fork in the road of our destiny. He must be repenting all the time, right? So, even in his dreams, he wanted to return to this day. Changing the decision of this day could change my life and his. I pushed him away and quietly gazed at his red eyes, pointing to Sylvia beside him. Brother Julian, who is she? His lips trembled as he cried, saying new lines. Her name is Sylvia, just a normal friend. What about me? Audrey, you are the girl I love most in this life. In this life, I will only love you, and can only love you. I looked at his handsome eyebrows and eyes, still as clean as they were back then. He was the boy I loved the most. Suddenly, I felt relieved. This day was his inner demon, and also my obsession. Now that I have heard his answer with my own ears, I can let go too. As for the truth of why he insisted on breaking up back then, I no longer want to pursue it. When a person dies, their light is extinguished. I am already dead. All the past is gone, no need to mention it again. I smiled and stroked Julian's face, helping him wipe away his tears. Brother Julian, don't cry. Audrey is here to say goodbye to you. He suddenly stopped, as if sensing something, and grabbed my hand tightly. Audrey, where are you going? It's time for me to go. I smiled sweetly. When I was alive, I couldn't bear to leave you, always thinking that it would be enough to see you from afar. Now that I'm dead, it's time to see the scenery in the distance. Don't go. He held on to me tightly, stubborn like a child. Audrey, I won't let you go. I stood on tiptoe and gently kissed his lips. Julian, forget me. I turned into a wisp of green smoke and disappeared before him. In the dark room, I floated in the air, watching the man on the bed, his face stained with tears. Audrey. His brow was furrowed, and he kept calling my name. I floated over and gently embraced him. Brother Julian, Audrey will always love you,